Brian McCaffrey with IGN here. I am thrilled to be joined by much of the cast, the executive producers, and director of the Halo TV series coming to Paramount Plus this year. I want to say hello to Kiki Wolfkill, executive producer, Stephen Kane, another executive producer, Otto Bathurst on the directorial chair, Pablo Schreiber playing Master Chief, Natascha McElhone playing Dr. Halsey, Bokeem Woodbine as Soren, Natasha Culzac as Riz, and Jen Taylor, who the IGN audience knows very, very well already as Cortana. Thank you so much to all of you. We've just got a few minutes. I want to jump right in. This is probably best aimed at Kiki, Steven, or Otto. So I really want to know, how has this show evolved since it was first announced so many moons ago? And is Steven Spielberg still involved in this? Or just can you guys give us an update on sort of how the show has evolved into what it is today?
Yeah, I can start, and Steven, Otto, you guys should jump in, because it's been a journey. And I feel like we've definitely had sort of a lot of fits and starts, which I think was the right thing, right, to get to where we are now. It's not something I anticipated would ever take so long. All of those decisions and the time it took to get here was worth it. And we've gone through story iteration, we've gone through different folks being involved. Thankfully, Steven Spielberg is still involved. Which has been a great thread to have throughout. So lots of change, but always sort of building on and bringing focus to where we wanted to get to.
Steven, you want to jump in on that one as well?
Well, I came in, I would say, very late in the process, yet with still so much to do. So I sort of inherited a lot of great stuff that I'd learned from everything that they had been doing beforehand. And I jumped in, and I think we had our own journey together for the last 3 years, which has been amazing. And yeah, I think as Kiki said, it was all the work and time was worth it, because we just kept iterating and discovering together what the show is and how it's going to, create its own universe equal to and separate from the game, and just give fans an amazing ride, whether they knew the game for 20 years or they're new to it. So it was a lot of work, but totally worth it.
And Otto is directing this thing. How have you portrayed this show on the silver screen, on the actual live action screen? Tone, the look of it. How have you approached this?
The game has got such a vast history and fan base and this kind of stuff. But I mean, what was the big target for this was to serve the fan base as well, but also hopefully make something that was appealing to a wider audience as well, people who didn't know the game necessarily, weren't necessarily massive sci-fi fans. And that's where the work was done in rooting it in characters and really building up the script. That was then then we had this incredible cast, some of them whom are here now, but many more, and just really creating an engaging and characterful piece that was of the game, and obviously, very dependent upon the game, but stood up on its own two legs.
Pablo, I have to turn to you next, playing Master Chief here. Two things for you. One, what is it literally like stepping into this character's boots, which we've been wanting to see in live action for so long? And number two, the age-old fan question. I'm sure I'll be the first of many media journalists to ask you this. Will we see Master Chief's face in this show?
Well, I'll start from the beginning. Your first question. Stepping into the boots and putting on the helmet of Master Chief it's an incredible joy and an incredible honor. I'm basically getting to play a character that every teen boy has imagined himself as for the past 15 years in this country and across the world. So it's definitely one of the highlights of my career. I'm super honored to get to do it. And it's a massive job. The armor is heavy, the boots are big, and there's a lot involved in it. As for whether we're going to see his face, I would toss that question to the esteemed Kiki Wolfkill, who we're lucky enough to have. Kiki has done such an amazing job of shepherding this franchise for 343 and for Microsoft, and So that's a question for her.
What about it, Kiki? I imagine, yes or no, there's a storytelling reason for either doing so or not.
Yeah, I think, you know, we set out to tell a character story, right? And a personal story. And I think once we really got into what that story was, you know, it became clear that you needed to really see the person, right, in the armor and under the helmet. And so you will.
I want to go to Jen Taylor next. Jen, I mean, what's it like for you jumping into the show and seeing Halo transition to live action? You've been such an integral part of it for so long as a voice actor and performance capture actor.
Well, I got to be on a set. I mean, I actually got, instead of just in a blank room by myself, right? Or so it was such a thrill. It was a huge thrill. And I had very patient, generous colleagues who helped me a lot. Thank you.
So Natascha McElhone, I want to talk to you next about Halsey, who is a character, of course, Jen Taylor has played so well in the games over the years, and Jen has played her with this kind of defiant personality. So I'm curious, how are you approaching Halsey for this show?
You know, we had long talks way back before we started, at the beginning mostly with Otto and with Steve, about constructing a sort of a version of her for TV, which is, you know, a different medium, obviously, from the game and so forth. And yeah, we sort of went for someone who maybe we can't categorize her instantly, that there's something sort of slightly inscrutable about her, and she's definitely up to some kind of the devil's work, but you know, it's not entirely manifest in the first season, the sort of I guess the scope of it. So hopefully there's a few things still hidden to be revealed as we progress and hopefully get into season 2. But it was great. It was a really fun process working and building this. And actually the research that I ended up getting embroiled in was incredible and took me to places that that's what I love about this job I get. Yeah, it was really stimulating. It was great.
Well, Natasha, both you and Bokeem are playing Spartan 2's Riz and Soren. They are not new to the larger Halo universe, but they're Spartan 2's that you got to go pretty deep into the Halo lore to get to. Can you each tell us a bit about your characters? Natasha, go ahead first.
Sure. Riz028. You know, she was part of the program, stolen as a child and augmented, and she's basically just a fearless, raging killer. And my specialisms as well, she's a communications specialist and close combat battle specialist.
He's a dual wielder.
Oh, Halo 2 style. I like that. Bokeem, how about you? Tell me about Soren.
Soren 066 is very enterprising, innovative individual with an entrepreneurial spirit, and he's somebody who possesses Spartan training skills, but as an independent thinker. And if we were to refer to Joseph Campbell and the archetypes in some of his teachings, you might consider him to be the lovable rogue who can whoop that tail.
Did you have fun in the armor, Bokeem?
Well, fun is a strong word. It's a subjective word. You say fun in the armor. Listen. I'm still alive. I'm still standing. You know, you can't complain under those circumstances. And to be honest with you, I had the slightly lighter, less cumbersome version of the armor, which the Spartans were happy to remind me of whenever they could. You know, they would remind me that I would get a cakewalk. You know what I'm saying? So look, it's all part and parcel. I walked around with a weight vest for like 6 weeks, and Pablo used to tease me every time he saw me because you know, it didn't matter where I was going, I was wearing this weight vest because I had to acclimate. So once that, you know, kind of dialed into my body, it was easy peasy.
Kiki, I want to come back to you here. since this show is not officially part of Halo canon, it's it's able to do its own thing. So how can we expect this show to be different from what we've become accustomed to in the games?
Yeah, I think I've talked before about the new Halo Silver timeline, which is really a way of giving the show, well, actually giving the show and core canon kind of room to grow and evolve and sort of be what they need to be. And so really think about the Halo Silver timeline as rooted in canon. So events and characters and all of those, and certainly sort of the all of the things you see in canon are all part of the show. But sometimes you will see those events from a different perspective. There are times, places where we've had to sort of pull events closer together than they may be in the chronology. And that's actually a really good example where the context maybe will shift a little bit, but it should feel very Halo. Like at the end of the day, kind of the core of Halo are those pillars of heroism and humanity and sort of the wonder of sci-fi and hope, and all of those things are absolutely core to what we're doing. And so I think it's a case where people will watch the show and it will feel Halo, and there will be a lot that they recognize verbatim and a lot that will feel a little bit different, just so that the narrative has a chance to kind of go where it needs to go without colliding with some of the core canon.
Steven, let me come back to you. As a Halo fan, I'm certainly very curious about the release schedule of this show. Are we able to zero in the release cadence? We've seen some shows are just dropping the whole season at once. Some are doing, 3 and then weekly. Some are just going weekly. Are you able to speak to that at this point in time?
I think the plan was to do it on a weekly basis here in the States, and there's a big plan for it to be released eventually all over the world, which it should be. And but I think it's going to be the kind of thing that, yeah, you'll get your fill, and you have to wait and come back next week and see what happens next, which I think gives you time for it to breathe. You'll have that ability to have that water cooler moment or the kitchen sink moment, depending on if you're working from home. But I think that it's such a rich, dense, big story that, obviously people who wait and binge it will have an amazing reward from that too. But we're just excited to see it come out and have people, every episode ends in a way that makes you want to come back anyway. So whether you binge it or you wait a week, that's, it's still going to be great fun to watch.
And Steven and Kiki as well, is this a show where there is a set plan for a certain number of seasons? And are you kind of willing to speak to that, or are we kind of just playing it as we go for now?
We're going to play it as we go, Ryan.
I mean, it's Halo, so I would guess 7 seasons, right? There's a lot of 7 in Halo, but
it is the magic number.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. Otto, did you have you sort of secretly placed any Halo Easter eggs throughout these episodes that Halo fans might recognize?
That was actually one of the things that we really loved doing, actually, and really wanted to do, because Kiki, I remember when we went to boot camp, I was kind of blown away actually by the whole thing, but also just sort of really for the first time begun to respect fans and the sort of the extremity of the fans and the intensity of the fans as well, and how Kiki and Frank would tell us stories about kind of like how each frame will get frozen and blown up, and serial numbers on the back of a crate will get checked, and that was kind of terrifying, but also really fun as well, because you kind of go, okay, that's great, and there are a lot of Easter eggs in there. And it was a lot of fun put in, and we had an incredible team, particularly in the production design, and the graphic designer who just has taken it to the absolute nth level. So I'm gonna put my neck on the line and challenge you to freeze frame and zoom in and yeah, I shouldn't have said that, but anyway, yeah.
The Halo community will take you up on that, I promise.
Yeah, no, I know they will. Actually, I don't.
There's one episode in particular. Oh, go ahead.
No, go, Kiki, you go.
I was going to say, there's one episode in particular, to your point about 7s, Ryan. You can keep an eye out for.
All right. Yeah. I will do just that.
It's well worth going for a dig. That's what I'm saying.
And Otto, you know, aliens play such a huge role in this franchise, obviously. So what was the approach with regard to practical and CGI and mixing those and sort of choosing which to use where?
The whole vibe for the show, you know, was to make it feel as kind of grounded and as real and as visceral as possible. And, you know, clearly it's a massive VFX show. I mean, obviously it's Halo. But wherever possible, you know, you're trying to do that stuff practically. You're trying to move the camera practically. So, you know, so if we, you know, when there was alien action, you've always got a human being doing the movement and doing, you know, so that, and that's incredibly supportive for the other actors, but also for the whole crew, you know, to actually kind of to visualize what it's going and the speed at which stuff's going, and just enables the camera to just be a lot more kind of, just a lot more free flowing, and hopefully, and I mean, you know, the visual effects on this show are just that they are, well, you know, you guys can be the judge, but I think they're out of this world. You know, they're incredible. You know, and the creatures that we've got in there are really exciting and incredibly kind of really hold up to that sort of that intensity of you know, of the close-ups and the action. And I mean, you know, you're with them. You're totally with them. It's amazing. It's very exciting stuff.
I know we've just got a few minutes left. I want to come back to my Spartans here, Pablo, Bokeem, and Natasha Culzac. Vehicles are also a huge thing in the Halo universe. The Warthog, the Ghost, all these vehicles. Did you guys get to have any fun shooting with various vehicles, be them prop or actual functioning vehicles throughout the course of this show?
Absolutely, we got some serious Warthog action in there. There's definitely a bunch of Warthog driving scenes, and the Warthogs are actually amazing machines. A lot of fun to drive, incredibly capable 4x4. They drive fast. They're exciting mobiles. But that's one of the challenges of the project in general, is that obviously all of the tech that we're dealing with, whether it's the vehicles or whether it's the weapons, is future tech. So it doesn't actually exist, you know. I'm used to shooting military movies where we use real weapons, and you get trained with real weapons, you know, and they actually fire, and so you get a feedback from them. And one of the challenges of this is trying to figure out how to make future tech look believable and look as engaging and real as you know, real stuff, ballistics that you would be using on set in another movie. So it was one of the challenges, but it's a great challenge, and I think it came out looking amazing.
For me, it was good times. I can, you know, sit here and tell you that I am now one of the few brothers in science fiction that has his own spaceship, okay? Which I'm very proud of, all right? Not too many brothers flying spaceships in sci-fi. And I mean, when I saw that thing and I sat and, you know, in that seat, I was like, what is this moisture in the corner of my eye?
Oh.
What is that? It was a powerful moment. So yeah, good times.
Kiki, Steven, and Otto, any of you, the one other sort of pillar of Halo I can't end this interview without touching on is the music. Halo is so iconic with its music. So how has the sound design, the score, how have you all approached that for the purposes of a television show?
One of the nice things is we have such a huge library of assets, but like everything, whether it's sound or the visual, it's all about taking that baseline and then making it really work and feel believable and sort of have the voice of the show. And so, you know, familiarity with sound effects is super critical, because so much of your experience with the games, right, is the sound and the sound effects. So for sure, you'll hear a lot of those. On the score, we have a amazing composer on board named Sean Callery, and he's been doing an original composition for the show, but also integrating some familiar elements as well. So again, the idea of how do we make sure we're grounded in Halo, but we do want the show to have its own voice, and so much of the score is about supporting what's happening in the story, and that should be bespoke, because some of those story elements are bespoke.
All right, before we go, there are a couple of fan questions that we have queued up here, ready to go. The first comes from Daniel Prindle. who asks, what is your favorite Halo weapon? So I want to quickly go around the table, whether it's if you have played the games, you have a favorite weapon in the game, or maybe just from the set, one of the prop weapons that you just thought was super cool. I guess maybe we'll start with Pablo on this one, the Master Chief himself.
I mean, the battle rifle, come on.
Bokeem, I don't know if Soren has a specific weapon of choice, or if you just personally have found one weapon or another particularly appealing on set.
Long barrel 44 with armor-piercing rounds.
Natasha Culzac, Riz. Does Riz have a favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Riz's favorite is her Magnum pistols. My favorite is the Covenant Needler.
See, yes. Good choice. That is a good choice right there.
You know, Cortana can't really pick anything up.
Right.
So, you know, she's just getting into the network. But yeah, no, the Needler, I mean, if I could, Needler would be it. It's just gross. It's just gross.
Yeah. And finally, we'll kind of end on this. This question comes from Bloomin, who asks kind of what each of you've touched on this, some of you have touched on this already, but what did each of you do to prepare for the role? Whether, you know, we heard about Halo Boot Camp, we heard about some weighted vests, but, you know, every actor has their own unique approach to any role, and Halo is this thing where it's already a big deal in one medium and you're bringing it to a new one. So I want to go around here. Let me start. We'll go kind of right back to Jen Taylor on this one. I don't know. You were probably the most prepared coming into this. I suspect.
I spent 20 years preparing for this role. Yeah, I did a lot of research. I've been researching this for a long time, so I felt really, really ready to know. What did I do? I didn't get to do any of the fun physical stuff. Because why would I do that? So I jumped. I just jumped. I said yes and I jumped. That's how I prepared.
Natasha Culzac, how about you? How did you prepare for this role?
I bought an Xbox and all the Halo games, but I didn't get through them all. And I read some of the the graphic novels as well. But mostly for the character, it was about physical training, and that was really the crux of it. It was just so much training, so much.
Bokeem, how about you?
I did a lot of drinking alone, which was very helpful to get into the mind state I needed to be in.
Lots of apple juice.
Every actor has their own way. Natascha McElhone, how about you?
I did a ton of research on AI because I just thought being able to build a super intelligence was something I should know. Obviously, in the context of our time, and you know, it's not nearly as advanced as the Halo world, but that helped me believe that, like having some sort of knowledge of that world, which up until that point I've been pretty ignorant around, and that was really fun. And I visited all kinds of people and spoke to all kinds of people who are big believers in singularity and play Halo all the time as well, by the way. So sort of professors at universities and anything I could get my hands on. Yeah, I definitely immersed myself in that.
And Pablo, finally, how about you? The Master Chief, John 117. What was the preparation like for you from either a research, physical perspective, etc.?
Yeah, well, I won't bore you with too much of it, but it was wide-ranging. Obviously, the physical side, just getting in shape and staying in shape, eating more food than you'd ever want to eat in your life, and constantly in preparation and then on set. Then obviously the military training. I came with a background of military training from prior projects, which kind of gave me a depth of understanding there. But I think the biggest point of research and preparation I'd like to highlight was my entry point to this project, and the thing that kind of brought me to it, which is, when I first came to this, I knew of Halo sort of peripherally. I'd played when I was a teenager, but not much. And when I was asked to do it, I sort of got back into it. And the first thing I was struck by was the depth and the scale of the mythology and the lore. And for me, you know, I'm a storyteller, and the way that I approach any project, or the thing that draws me into any project, is story, good story, right? And whether it's a video game or whether it's a science fiction, you know, it has to be good drama. And what I was struck by, and that's what we want to do with this show, is we want to transcend, you know, the genre of science fiction. We want to transcend the fact that it's a video game coming to the screen. We just want to be a great TV show, right? And the best way to do that is have a great story and have a lot of story to draw upon. And for me, that was the thing that I was struck by the Halo universe from the very beginning. Is I started, you know, I watched all the cinematics for Halo 1 through 5, obviously, to get a sense of what had already been established in the video games, but then researching the actual mythology, like starting to read about the timelines of all of this stuff and where it went. There's 17 novels. I obviously didn't read all 17 of them yet, but the amount of material that's there is so exciting, and it's what excites me the most about going forward, right? Is that the amount of mythology that we have to pull from for subsequent seasons is such a gift, and so that's the thing that I'm the most excited about.
Well, I can't thank all of you enough for your time. Halo coming to Paramount Plus March 24th. We have a date. I'm so excited to watch this show. Thank you to Kiki, Wolfkill, Stephen Kane, Otto Bathurst, Pablo Schreiber, Natascha McElhone, Bokeem Woodbine, Natasha Culzac, and Jen Taylor. Some of the stars and some of the behind-the-scenes folks of Halo. For more on all things Halo, whether it's the game or the show, keep it right here on IGN.